Hello, welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. Today I want to talk about, again, a phrase that I've been using a lot, that I use in my music teaching, but I see a connection with other areas, and I kind of feel like it's, if you just change a word here or there, it kind of creates a universal thought, a universal mantra, if you will. So the phrase I use is, for music purposes, music education is this: the music will always change. The skills needed to play the music never change. So this video is going to be about unpacking that, both from a music perspective and also just for maybe like a living life perspective. So I wrote a few notes and so to help myself here. So let's just start with this. From the music perspective, we have different performances, etc. So that the music logically always changes. But to be able to perform the music, you must have a knowledge of rhythms and be able to produce a good tone on your instrument. There's a thing called articulation. It's the way you use your tongue in wind instruments, or the way you use your bow, or the sound you get even on percussion. So those are just the basics. And then you've got to know some of your, I call them theory fundamentals, scales and arpeggios. You also have to have a system of how to practice, right? That's a skill, because again, literally the music changes. So you have to have a system to work up music to a high level. I referenced this a long time ago, or a different video called Quality Control. In essence, your system for practicing is trying to create a sense of quality control no matter what the music is. But again, everything in music changes based on the performance, based on what you're working on, based on your needs. I mean, as you progress, you don't continue to do the stuff from fifth grade band even when you're 30 or 50, or like that would make no sense. You would stop growing. But anyway, it's something that I try to kind of tell my students so that they can understand why we do so many fundamental stuff, why we have warm-up routines, because those are the things that are actually fixing the playing and the skills underneath, so that in the future, whatever they put in front of them, whatever they decide to play, or whatever we play in band, they'll do it well. So anyway, again, I hope that made very clear sense. I think it's very logical. The thing is, it's so logical that it can be applied to so many different areas of life. So I'm going to start with a few different ones. So I'm going to use the same phrase and then unpack it. So the tests or assessments will always change. The skills needed for the assessments/tests never change. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's just start from the most basic, kind of like I did before. Well, if you can't read and write, you're probably not going to be prepared for a test. Now, I know that's very simplistic, right? But again, just like in music, I would grow in my advancement of rhythms and improve my tone and my articulation and skills and constantly build that, I should be doing the same thing in my writing, in my reading, in my skills of education, mathematics, science. But the idea is the basic skills are always going to be universal. They'll never change. Okay. Now I wrote a note here, and I just want to be very clear, because this is one, if I have to be blunt, this is one I feel like we all struggle with as human beings, but I think it's more prevalent now just because of all the distractions in our society. But self-discipline or self-regulation. Now that is a skill that should never change. But again, kids struggle with that, right? So the reality is, I think that's just a basic skill that we hopefully can learn how to model, instill, and create systems that allow students to practice that. And I kind of wrote this note. It's like, students, one of the skills they've got to practice is, can you simply pay attention? Even if you don't like what the subject, like, can you self-regulate yourself to just pay attention? Because side note, but related, I've given this piece of advice to students that are that are going to college. And I said the most valuable thing I learned in college was to show up. And what I meant by that is, when I would go to class and you would see lots of kids in college who were finally free for the first time and they had to self-regulate, they wouldn't show up to their classes thinking they could study and get caught up, and then they would inevitably fail. Now, it's a tough life lesson. They had to learn it. But I remember thinking, like, I always showed up. And I didn't have to study because I would pay attention. I would self-regulate. I would listen. Yeah, sometimes our professors were so boring, it sucked. Okay. And I would have to find ways, and I sometimes doodled. I mean, I wasn't always 100% paying attention, but that simple act of showing up. And again, I would ask our students when they're preparing for tests or in class, like, are they able to self-regulate? Which I think is something, again, that we, and I say we all as a system, could probably model better, could try to give, tricks and what's the word I'm looking for? Skills in that area. And then on another level, again, this goes back to that practicing system I was referencing for music, is what are kids' organizational and study skills, right? What system do they live under for that? Again, every test could be prepared for basically the same way if they have a system involved, okay? So anyway, I hope that you can see the correlation between my first statement, which was the music will always change, but the skills needed to play the music never change. Same thing. The tests will always change, but the skills needed to prepare for this test never change. And I think that's true, right? If you have good habits. Now, I wrote a note here because I think this is important, and I just want to tie it into my own personal growth journey. And I won't have as many details on this, but think about the people in our life. The people will always change, but the skills needed to maintain relationships or improve relationships never change, right? Universal principles. And here it's where, again, I'm not going to go into depth because I think I need to spend more time reading more. But, again, just you treat your people or your friends with kindness, right? Respect, empathy. Do you know when to be selfless versus selfish? Because let's be honest, to have a quality relationship, you do have to have a balance of that. You have to know how to be selfless towards people, especially your friends. But there are times where your friends might take advantage, and you have to learn how to balance that out. Do you have conflict resolution skills? Those are things that we would all benefit from. Do you support people? Do you have a way, or are you jealous? Are you selfish? Do you have integrity? Right? If you don't have integrity with people, you're probably not going to bring great people in your life. But the point is, I think about just how, if we really thought about it, I think all areas of our life, there's truth to this. Something in our life will change, but the underlying principles or skills never change. And so here's where, again, I want to tie this and kind of wrap this all up, is if we just think of the word success, right? Our success will always change, meaning, let's just assume we achieve some level of success. Well, now we've achieved it. Now something's got to change because we have to, add something new to strive for, growth or goals, whatever. The goal, the success will always change, but the skills underneath never change, what we need to be successful. And so hopefully if you've followed me this far and I've been clear in what I'm describing, what I really believe is all the stuff I talked about just a second ago about, relationships and the tests and the music, right? The skills underneath, those never change. Well, success is having all those in place, right? If you know how to relate with people and you have good social skills or good skills in that area, that's going to help you towards success. If you have good preparation skills, good organization skills, good systems that help you prepare for tests in school, guess what? That's going to prepare you for what comes in the future. I would even argue that music, even though, because there's a creative side to that, there's a working, like music, you have to work with people if you're in an ensemble. So all of those things I've outlined, in essence, if we have those things in place, if we teach the right skills, I believe the byproduct of those skills, of those routines that we're kind of outlining, the only possible byproduct is success. Now, I've also said this, and again, this goes back to my whole mantra of this entire channel and kind of my personal life philosophy is consistent effort over time equals success. Now, because I'm talking about success, I want to make this clear. If you only have one definition of what success is, then my little mantra doesn't work, right? Because then it's saying this is the only way I can be successful, nothing else matters. But what I've learned personally is as I grow and look at just letting life kind of happen, but trying to be purposeful about my routines and my goals and just kind of letting life kind of show me where it needs to go, I've learned that my definition of success has changed throughout my many years. And I even can look back at times where I didn't even realize I was successful and go, man, I was successful because of these other things. And it's normally I'm successful. I can look back and say I'm successful because of the effort I put forward, my effort in becoming, practicing diligently over time, even though sometimes it was a struggle. I've reached a level of success. Again, not to toot my own horn, ha ha ha. But again, I feel like there's many areas in teaching where I am successful. Now, I've also learned that I've learned about my own strengths and what they are. And again, I look back and this whole idea is I learned all these valuable skills that seem to be paying off now through music, because I had good habits. I would say even education. Now, there were some areas I wasn't always as organized. I'm having to, work on that right now. But again, as I become more well-rounded in my social skills, my personal growth skills, my habit skills, my organizational skills, just my success habits, I can just see myself achieving more and more goals. And again, I mean, this whole channel, the fact that I do this now, have the courage to do it, it's simply because growth within me, consistent effort over time. And again, as I wrap this up, I just want to say, it seems to me that success, if we want to look, again, if we can look long term, it starts with our habits, right? Even the smallest course correction one way or the other, like if our destination is this way, right, and we have some habits that do this, that just off a little bit, right, but here's our goal. Okay, so let me do straight line, which is never a straight line. It's it's this. But what if we're just off by a little, right? As we get further and further and further and further, we might miss our goal. Again, so it's those success principles. It's the idea of character, integrity, all the things we kind of just talked about, or that that I pontificated about. I don't know. I just like, again, I like simple, right? It's never easy, and that's another video I did. But I really like analogies. I really like finding things that seem like they're universally applicable to many different situations. And again, I think that our habits are universally transferable to all areas of life. And so that's, again, why we're making this. So again, I end with this, as always: consistent effort over time equals success. See you on the next video.